So can AI charge at $1,200 an hour like a highly paid legal professional? Probably not. Can you use AI to make $1,200 an hour and not pay the lawyer? Well, maybe. I don't know if you'll be able to bill $1,200 an hour for using AI, but that being said, there's a big cost savings here. I'd like to jump into it. I think that Claude Cowork has really advanced state of the art as to what you can do with AI in a real business setting. And so again, are you going to eliminate your expensive attorney and make big bucks with AI? Maybe, hopefully so. So one of the big issues with the discussion around AI, whether it's online or what some of the companies are talking about, is there's sort of a yawning gap between tooling like ChatGPT or Claude and a real world business use case. And I think you see this in a number of different studies where they talk about it a lot, but is it actually delivering on the promise? No, it's sort of a bubble. You kind of see a lot of the discussion around that. I think that the missing piece is how do you actually implement this in the real world? What do you do if you're running a business or you're performing some sort of business transaction? How do you implement AI and how do you use it to help your business? So to back up, what I'll be talking about is the use case within a cost segregation report. And so for those who don't know, a cost segregation report is a report that the IRS uses based on IRS rules about what counts toward depreciation and what doesn't count toward depreciation. And it's usually prepared by CPAs. Major CPA firms do this all day long. It's used in almost every type of asset class. So whether it's real estate or machinery or equipment, all of these have a cost segregation report. And what you're segregating is the cost that you're allowed to depreciate and the costs that you're not allowed to depreciate. So to back up even a little bit more, depreciation is what the IRS allows you to take over a piece of equipment, an asset's lifetime. Okay. So let's say you buy $1 million piece of machinery. It's going to last 10 years. In the simplistic example, you will be allowed to depreciate $100,000 per year. Okay. And so again, it's a lot more sophisticated than that. And there's very specific rules that the IRS puts out that say what you can and can't, what buckets go in, what buckets can't be depreciated. And so these reports are very important in any sort of asset transfer. If I am buying your business, say I'm buying your printing company and one of your larger assets is a printing machine, I have to understand how much depreciation life I have left in order to properly value your business. And so this comes into play in a lot of transaction types. It's also used in the case of filing. When I buy a piece of equipment, I need to have a cost segregation report to know how much to write off for my taxes. So again, this is a very common kind of ordinary report that's used. And like I said, there's a great deal of specificity about it because not every cost can be depreciated. Okay. And so sometimes those costs and what can be depreciated come from various IRS guidelines. So the IRS has rules. It's kind of a moving target. They're issuing rules that say you can't deduct this, you can't deduct that. And so in our case, we are going through a business transaction, which the cost segregation is a key component. It effectively values what the total transaction size is, and as part of that, what the tax credit amount will be from the transaction. And so certain things have to all be counted for, and it all has to be done kind of to the penny. So the issue here is in this particular footnote. And if you've been in business a little while or you read these sorts of reports, you know there's a lot of good stuff that happens or very bad stuff, really. Saying very interesting things happen in the footnotes. If you're reading annual reports, it gets into the footnotes. The footnotes is kind of where the action is. And so these guys use this mapping tool, okay, and they used this certain appendix from this IRS notice. Now, the reality is they used the wrong appendix. They should have used Appendix 3. They used Appendix 1. Very easy mistake to make. But in this case, this is, $1 million mistakes, multi-million-dollar mistakes. And so what we had to do was go through the report in detail and look at every single element and go back and almost reproduce the work that they did in order to come up with the issue. So attorneys are reading this, and these attorneys get paid, again, $1,000 an hour, sometimes more, sometimes $1,500 an hour. This is really very sophisticated work. So what I wanted to do was run this through Claude Cowork and see what Claude Cowork could do with this. So I posed the business problem. I gave it the cost segregation report, and then I gave it the question and let it run. Let me show you what we came up with. All right, so jumping in to what we had Claude Cowork do is we needed to verify the energy community credit qualifications. And so at a high level, you get a bonus for doing a tax credit if you are doing the renewable energy work in what's called an energy community. There's all sorts of rules about it. There's maps, and the IRS puts out these maps and is sort of updated all the time. And this isn't a political process. It's just a thing that they do. They say this metro service area MSA or this county qualifies for X, Y, or Z. Okay, and it's all based on the latitude and longitude. So you have to go into all these tools and use them, and then, use that to produce the report, and that comes up with the numbers. So again, it's a process that probably could be automated with software, but it would be expensive and it would be very time consuming. And sometimes it's just easier and cheaper because not every deal that you see is exactly the same format. So what's coming in is often different. So if what's coming in is always the same, if the data that's coming into the system is always the same, then typically that's something that, would be really great to automate with just traditional software code. Okay, so net, the attorney had a question. We looked at this report and threw it into Claude Code to just see what could it do within Cowork. Sorry, I meant to say Cowork. So we took the tracking sheet and we took the cost seg report and threw those in together and just said, hey, look into this, the lat long of each project in the folder. So there's a deal folder. It's basically a Dropbox folder. It has lots of invoices and reports and accounting things, and it's got, building permits and blah, blah, blah. And so look in that and just make sure the master tracking sheet is correct. So again, the cost seg reports, like I said, it cites the wrong index. Okay. And so it's describing the qualification. It should be updated. So what does Claude Cowork do? We didn't teach it anything about the report. We didn't say, here's how you validate it. We just said, here's the data, here's the report, here's the question, go. Okay, so it starts uploading the files, it starts researching the notice, and it looks at the actual addresses from the project document. It's doing this on its own. It's saying, hey, I need to do this. Okay, so again, it's looking at the key data, it's extracting it, it's excellent. So it's geocoding the addresses. Again, all totally automated. It knows how to do it. We didn't teach it how to do it. It's verifying the findings. Okay, so this project, it shows it's in Beaver County, Oklahoma, instead of Pottawatomie County. Okay, so this one shows Rockwall County instead of Hunt County. So again, it's now going through and validating the data, okay? And it's looking at this DFW MSA and the Hill Country non-MSA to see if they qualify. Again, this is sophisticated work. A lawyer was paid to do this. A CPA was paid to do this, okay? So it's running into problems downloading the document. Okay, it's trying to find, hey, let me use the map. It's using different tools. It's finding tooling. Okay, it's looking at the various MSA. So now it's searching the web. It's looking at the unemployment rate is 3.9. Okay, below the national average. So any place where the unemployment rate is below the national average. But anyway, it's going and getting all this from the Department of Labor. And then it's reading it and compiling it, and it's showing, yes, the cost seg report claims all 17 qualify, and then it's finding the error in it, okay? So it's looking for all of these projects, and it's saying that they cite the wrong index, okay? And it's explaining why the index is wrong. So it's saying it needs to find index appendix 3. Okay. And so then this affects all of these statistical projects. So at this point, you have Claude Code basically doing the work, completely untrained. First look, never seen this work before, does not know the job that it's supposed to do. Cowork figured out exactly how to do this job and then went and figured out which ones qualify, which ones don't qualify. It looks at the different projects. This is real work. I mean, this is work that accounting firms are paid tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars a year to do for all different types of projects. And attorneys are paid thousands of dollars, $1,000 plus an hour to oversee this and to write a tax memo about it. And Claude Cowork did that work. And at the very least, even if you said, well, it could, find the wrong things, or it could, hallucinate, great. It does a first pass. Like, at least as a first pass, it kind of tells you where to look. This is crazy stuff. Now, where I think probably the good news is off of this does allow you to dig a lot deeper into deals. So if you're looking at investing or you're looking at buying an asset, the cost of looking at that deal in great detail just dropped. So again, this is a large expense of transactions. This is where transactions oftentimes get hung up. This is oftentimes where you have to spend a lot of money to look at a deal, and then ultimately you walk away from it. That's just a sunk cost. So I do think that there is some real significant upside here. I don't think this is going to get rid of attorneys. I don't think it's going to get rid of CPAs. Again, I think this is a great tool for them to use in the case of this. Now, where to come back, circle back full circle to kind of where I started is, this is a real world use case. This is something that AI can do kind of right now. This is something that sophisticated credential professionals are doing and do a lot of. How does this tool fit into your business? How does this tool, something where your CPA, or, if you're doing deal analysis or you're doing deal flow, how do you work this tool into your day-to-day, right? And I don't know if Cowork is that tool. I don't know if Cowork is the right UI for this. My feeling is it's probably not. This is not a great UI. The input of this was kind of easy to put in, but the output is not super helpful. It's just a big old, Word doc. That's not great. So again, I think connecting these two things together is where the rubber meets the road. But I wanted to show you guys some basic example of where we use this today and how this saves money and time and can really dramatically improve, the output of due diligence and the output of the asset verification process within, say, a purchase transaction. So again, thanks so much.